Okay, as I was pulling together all of the supplies that I used to create this card, I realized that I did kind of go over the top on using a whole bunch of different stuff. But the basis for this card is the Sweet Candy Cane stamp set and dies. Super fun in the 2022 mini catalog. The one that I like to think of as the holiday catalog, it goes from July to December. So this stamp set comes with a matching die. And actually I have the dies out. So there is this fun large background die that I used to do the stripes on the background piece. And then we've got candy canes in both directions. I have one flipped each way here. But that's really cool. So you can do that crossed candy cane effect. It has a little a label for putting on a real candy cane, right? You can kind of wrap it around a candy cane with a greeting. And then these two leaves. So these leaves just weren't quite big enough for what I wanted, and I wanted more of a Northwoods look for mine. You could use them if you didn't want to buy any extra dies, but I wanted to use the Christmas pine cone dies. So this fun die, there's actually a set of two, and you can do somewhere in here, there's another one. There it is. You can do all this layering. I actually used this die to cut the pieces for this one. And this die, when you cut with it, I don't know if it's my die or my my embossing machine, but I could not get a good cut without putting a shim in it. So just put an extra piece of paper in there if you're having trouble with any dies. It's just kind of a tip. And the other thing you can do is run it through this direction and then run it through this direction. So that'll kind of help it hits the rollers in a little bit different spot. And then the other die that I used was the circle die for my labels. So I used two of these, one of the little scallopy ones and one of the circles. So to make my labels. So I just cut when I'm preparing my materials. Oh, and I did emboss the greeting. Let's see. Where have I got one of my, here, I've got one of my labels that I have. I made like tons of these. So here's one that I had all prepared. So the greeting I just stamped on some of my scraps, right? I always end up with these 1-inch scraps. So stamp the greeting with the Versamark ink. And I think most of my scraps, I ended up getting three greetings on one. And then I'd sprinkle it with the embossing powder. Oh, and don't forget to use your embossing buddy. You can see I almost forgot to tell you about it. I'd like to forget that too. So then I just sprinkled it with the embossing powder and heated those. And these are just fussy cut. Sat in front of the TV watching a show and did that one night. And then, oh, I also used some of the sweet sorbet baker's twine that comes in a pack with all of the in colors. So you get all 5 of them. So also on my little labels, I used this fun, I can't think of the name of it right now, but I will have it in my blog post, this gold paper. It's a specialty paper. It comes 2 sheets in a pack. And I thought it added a nice shine to the project. And I like to cut things out in strips like that when I run them through the die machine, because then I can just keep wonking away at them. And then for my candy canes, because I was doing so many of them, I just cut a strip of paper in half the long way and then stamped my candy canes. And I did them, so you've got the 2 different ones, right? So this one goes this way, and then I had the other one. I'm trying to think, how's this work? I know I opposited them anyways, so that I could, when I went to die cut, I could die cut both. So I cut 2 at a time, right? So I had one of each kind, and then I would switch off so I could cut 2 candy canes at a time to make it a little quicker. And everything on this card was actually sweet sorbet, white, and then the evening evergreen for the green. So it's kind of all that red and white, or red and green colors. Now for the background die cut, this is actually 1/4 of a sheet of paper, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and you're going to use that whole thing, right? So when you place it on your edges, these are going to stay. So you need to put your die centered to make your cut look right. And so to remove it, you're just going to put it backwards and then peel up the pieces. At least I found this was the easiest way, rather than using a die brush or anything on this one. And then if you have some that don't come all the way out, sometimes you can fold it and just kind of peel it off. And then you have to take all these out. And I have a whole pile of these. I don't know if I'll come up with some use for those on another project, right? And then I just glued this on to my card front. And after it was all dry, if it didn't quite line up, I just took a paper snips and trimmed that off. Just on some of them, I don't know, I didn't have everything quite all right. And then I wanted to note too, this is the designer series paper that goes with the Sweet Candy Canes. And I used the little scallop circle punch, or I'm sorry, the die, and cut these out. And I would just cut a strip and do that. I actually cut the gold ones and these at the same time, because I could put the strips, line them up on my die cutter and run them through all at once. Save on the cranking. So then when I was assembling all these, I'd have my card base, right? I did all of those at once because this was like a mass production kind of a thing. And then this these green pine sprigs that I was using, there are actually 3 separate you can cut these into 3 separate sections. If I get these chiclets out of here, I can maybe see them better. Okay, so I just, because I didn't want to use the whole thing, you can just go in here and snip. That one's really easy to cut apart. This one has a couple more connections to it. So you have a few more snips for the last ones. But you can just go ahead and cut them apart. And then remove all the little chiclets, right? And then I actually like to use a silicone sheet and the multi-purpose glue to glue these on. And the more you use this glue, the better you will get at getting just the right amount. But you don't want too much. That's kind of the main thing, is to not over glue. So if you just kind of run it over your pieces. You can also use the fine tip glue pen. That glue though does not seem to adhere as quickly. It takes longer to actually make the bond. So you have to be a little bit more patient with that one. And then I kind of like to make my sprigs go across the paper, kind of like this. And then we're going to take one each direction. So the biggest portion of preparing this card is getting all these pieces ready, all of the die cutting. Stamping went pretty quickly. The die cutting was what took the longest. And then I wanted to add just a little something behind here. So what I did, and this is all prepared, these are all just glued together with liquid glue. Okay, and then I'm just going to take about 6 or 8 inches of the Sweet Sorbet Baker's Twine. And I didn't measure that, so heaven knows how much I ended up with. And then I just want a little dab of snail or Stamp and Seal. And then I want it to kind of go across the same direction as the letters. Then we'll grab some dimensionals, and you can either use minis or the full-size ones, either one. If you're using the minis, use 4 of them. If you're using the large ones, 3 will do. And there's our card. We can add some rhinestones if we want, or just leave it like this. Sometimes for mailing, you know, I like to leave my cards without any really thick gems, but a few sparkly rhinestones on here would look great too. Hope you enjoyed this card. I know it's kind of a little over the top. If you didn't want to add the pine cone sprigs, there are these fun little leaves that come in the die set with the candy canes. You know, you could use them instead to add your green. But I like the pine cones to add at the Northwoods feel. So thanks for stopping by at the Roost. If you'd like to purchase any of the products to make this card, just click on the link below and shop in my store. Have a great day.